Hey crafters, welcome back to my channel. I hope you all are having a great week. Hope you had a great weekend. So today we are going to be learning the third and final stitch I'm going to be teaching this month of Tunisian crochet. And what we're going to learn is, last week we learned the Tunisian knit stitch, and if you're familiar at all with knitting, or you've even watched TV shows, well, they'll say things like knit 1, purl 2. So today we are going to be learning the Tunisian purl stitch, and basically it's going to mimic the look of a purl stitch from knitting, but we're going to be using Tunisian crochet techniques. If you're not familiar with what a purl stitch looks like, it looks kind of like how the back of a Tunisian crochet project looks, just it'll have that same look on the front and the back of the work. Now, if I'm going to be honest, this is not my favorite stitch to do, nor is it my favorite stitch to teach, but it is really helpful for some different patterns and things. I'll show you a project that I made where I incorporated the Tunisian knit stitch and purl stitch and made this really cool basket weave pattern. And so it's definitely a stitch that is worth learning. So once more, I've got my little piece here from last week. I did a couple more rows of the Tunisian knit stitch just so you can see that, and then I swapped back to doing a few rows of Tunisian simple stitch just so that way you can see really easily where we need to work this stitch. But we are going to use a lot of the same techniques, where you're going to have a forward pass and a return pass. The return pass is done exactly the same way as we've been doing. However, the forward pass is why sometimes this stitch seems a little overwhelming to me, but it is definitely worth learning, and I promise it's not as bad as it might be sounding the way I'm talking about it right now. It's actually not nearly as bad, and it's worked in a very similar way as the stitches we've learned so far. So here we are. This is the piece of fabric that we have been working on. You'll notice a couple things that, as I mentioned, I did change up stitches. Down here along the bottom is the Tunisian simple stitch. Then I've got a section of Tunisian knit stitch, and then I went back to the Tunisian simple stitch just so we can see really clearly where we need to work. Another thing you might notice is, yes, the fabric is curling up on itself. Tunisian fabrics have the tendency to do that. There's different ways that it can be managed. It depends on what kind of project you're working on, whether that's a problem or not. But that's just something to keep in mind, that if your project's doing that, that's not anything to be scared about, and it doesn't mean you're making any mistakes. That's just how Tunisian crochet tends to work out. So we're going to be talking about the Tunisian purl stitch. Now, normally when we work stitches, I haven't said this in direct terms, but you might have noticed this, that the yarn kind of stays to the back. So if I were doing, say, a Tunisian simple stitch, the yarn stays to the back, I insert the hook, catch the yarn with that yarn over, pull through, and work like that. And the yarn tends to stay to the back. However, what sets the purl stitch apart from what we've learned so far, and also makes it a little bit different than the other stitches, is we actually keep the yarn tail to the front. And it's going to feel kind of weird because when it's back here, you can kind of hold it between these two fingers like you do in crochet, but you almost have to hold it between your thumb and pointer finger when you're working with it in the front, so it just feels a little different. So enough talking about what this stitch is going to look like. Let's actually start working on this stitch. So first of all, like normal, we don't do anything with this one here on the end. But as I mentioned, we want to have the yarn to the front of our work. And what we want to do is we want to go to the next post, right here, and we're going to insert our hook just like we do with the Tunisian simple stitch, where we just come underneath from right to left. The big difference here is the yarn is to the front of our work, not the back. And then just like in Tunisian simple stitch, we're going to yarn over and then pull that yarn through the first loop. And just like that, we've completed our first Tunisian purl stitch. So again, we want to have the yarn to the front, come in here from right to left, yarn over, and pull the yarn through one loop. Now, I have a tendency where, just because of how these stitches lie, when I'm pulling the loop through, it almost wants to go through the post that I've inserted my hook in, and also kind of the stitch right beside it. So make sure you only go through one stitch. So let's do this again. Yarn to the front. That's the most important thing. And then the rest of the steps are pretty much just like the Tunisian simple stitch. Keep the yarn to the front, find your next post, and insert the hook from right to left, yarn over, and pull through one. So something else that I'll sometimes do is I'll kind of do a backwards yarn over, where I yarn over that way, and then insert my hook, and then come all the way back around with my yarn, And that essentially does the same thing as far as keeping the yarn to the front of my work, just it feels a little more natural. So I'll also show you that way. You can do it the way I've been showing you, where you just pull it to the front and then go through, or you can do it like this. So to start, you're going to come across the front to the back, and just hang onto your yarn like that. Then find your post and insert from right to left. Now take your yarn and come back to the front, and then going from the bottom and then up, go behind, and then the top, down in front. Now it's got your tail of yarn, basically like your yarn over. Catch it and pull it through one loop. So I'll show you that again. I'm going to start, go that way, go across the front to the back with my yarn, inside my hook from right to left, and then I'm going to bring the yarn around 540 degrees. So for you non-math people, we're just going to go around all the way once in the opposite direction, and then halfway around across the front. And then yarn over and pull through. So again, you can either just keep the yarn pulled to the front, insert the hook, yarn over, pull through, or you can do my little method where you go to the back, insert the hook, loop around one full time, and then one half time more, yarn over and pull through. So I like the second way that I show a little bit better, just because it feels more natural, because it feels really weird and awkward a lot of the time to hold your yarn down here. It's harder to keep tension proper. But if it confuses you and you're not sure which way you need to go with your yarn to be able to actually do this little wraparound method that I'm showing you, then definitely stick with just keeping your yarn to the front. Again, as always with this last stitch, make sure you come under both those two right there on the end, yarn over and pull through one. Now fortunately, we're past the tricky part. We're going to work the return pass the same way we work all return passes. So yarn over and pull through one, then yarn over, pull through two, pull through two, yarn over, pull through two, yarn over, pull through two. If you've been watching these videos, you're probably a pro at this part by now. So you can see the really pretty texture starting to form. We'll work one more row just to make sure you really get the hang of it. So keep the yarn to the front, or you can do my little wraparound method. I'm going to go with my wraparound method. You can watch and hopefully you'll be able to pick up on it too, because I really do think it makes it a lot easier. And then just come through here, wrap it around the other way. Going nice and slow so hopefully you can get a feel for what I'm doing. Wrap from front going up, insert hook from right to left, go undo that twirl and come all the way around till it's across the front of the hook, pull through one, go over backwards, insert the hook, wrap around the opposite direction until it's in front of the hook, and pull through. There you go, you can see I actually pulled through two that time. It's just really easy to catch the stitch before, so make sure you don't lose any stitches if you accidentally try to pull it through more loops than it's supposed to go through. So I'm just going to finish working this row on the forward pass, and then I'll work the return pass, and I'll show you a few rows of what the Tunisian Purl Stitch looks like. And there we go. Now we've done 2 rows of Tunisian Purl Stitch. As you can see, it's kind of a chunky, nice, fun stitch. Here's what it looks like from the back. So it keeps that pretty consistent back to it. You can see that it does look a little bit different. For example, this is where I did some simple stitch on the front. You can see this extra bulkier section right in here where I did the Tunisian knit stitch. Then this section that's a little bit thinner, I did another simple stitch. And then up here, where just a little bit different texture, I'm doing the Tunisian Purl Stitch. But overall, the back looks approximately the same. But from the front, we've got all these different pretty patterns. So there you go. You now know how to crochet the Tunisian simple stitch, Tunisian knit stitch, and the Tunisian Purl Stitch. So definitely get your hooks out, get some yarn out, and get practicing, and soon you will be able to master these stitches. So as promised, I have a little project here. Actually, it's not a little project, it's really big. This thing with me, I used it in a lot of my other videos, and it's really messy right now because I need to go through my yarn stash and do some cleaning up, but you know, I haven't actually done that, you know. Anyways, so this is a project that I worked on where I combined the 3 different stitches that we've learned so far this month to create this really pretty basket. And you can kind of see that there's almost this like basket weave kind of design. It's a little hard to see right now just because as I'm holding it, it's stretching somewhat. But if you look at it, this block right here was done with Tunisian knit stitch. And this was the purl stitch we just learned. Down here, this band going across is Tunisian Simple Stitch. And so just by playing around with the different stitches and the textures that they make, I was able to create this like basket weave kind of pattern on this fun little, I keep saying little, I don't know why I keep saying little, it's not little, on this fun, stretchy yarn basket, cubby, whatever you want to call it. So anyways, there's just something to give you a little bit of inspiration and to encourage you to learn all these stitches. Lots of really cool ways you can combine these. Also, it's really neat because you can make knit-like projects. So if you want to knit scarf but you don't want to learn how to knit, well, now you can go ahead and use your Tunisian knit stitch and your Tunisian purl stitch to create some knit-like fabrics. You can also throw in the Tunisian simple stitch in there just for a little bit of extra flair with your project. But anyways, I hope that gives you some inspiration. Make sure you keep practicing your stitches, and in no time you will be making all kinds of awesome Tunisian projects. So next week I'm going to talk a little bit about changing colors, which is so much fun in Tunisian crochet, and it's also really easy. So you definitely don't want to miss that. Once you get the hang of these stitches, even if you've barely got the hang of them, you can absolutely master changing color. It's that easy, I guarantee. So I'm really excited to be showing you how to change color with Tunisian crochet, but that's all I've got for today. So I hope you have a great week. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe if you haven't already. I love seeing new crafters follow this channel. It gets me all excited. But anyways, I hope you have a great week and happy crafting. Okay, so per usual, I am filming this video ahead of time, you know, just because so I can stay on top of this. But anyways, my birthday's later on this week, which my birthday will already be past by the time the video comes out, so don't worry about wishing me happy birthday or anything. But anyways, we might get snow on my birthday, which would make me freak out because I love snow.